Madam Clerk, item 1, please.
Communication, Save Our Sports. Dear council members, as many of you are aware, the parent group Save Our Sports has led an active fundraising drive to restore freshman sports to the athletic program at Danbury High School. Throughout the summer, they have raised approximately $35,000, which is the total cost to restore freshman sports at Danbury High School. It's approximately $80,000. Working closely with our superintendent, Sal Pascarella, and our school finance director, Emilio Longo, we have identified approximately $58,000 of surplus money from the education budget of the 2010-2011 fiscal year that would normally be returned to the city of Danbury. At this time, I'm requesting that an appropriation of $58,000 from our fund balance go to contributions. Grants, Save Our Sports, $7,000.5855.06 to provide a matching grant to restore freshman sports at Danbury High School. Once the final audit for the 2010-2011 fiscal year has been completed, the $58,000 will be restored to the fund balance. Thank you for consideration. Sincerely, Mark D. Bowden, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. What's your pleasure, council? Mr. Calvo.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we transfer $58,000 from the city's fund balance into contributions grant Save Our Sports $7,000.5855.06 to provide a matching grant to restore freshman sports at Danbury High School.
Motion made and seconded by Mrs. Stanton. Discussion related to Save Our Sports grant. Discussion. Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few quick questions. The total that the group has collected, $35,000, is that right? According to the report. And then we are going to loan, one way or another, $58,000. That comes to 93. Is there a reason as to why the other, or where the other $13,000 would wind up?
Well, one is not, we have unaudited numbers. Mr. Longo and I, and Dr. Pascal and I came up with unaudited numbers, so we probably want to just have a little buffer in there in case, for example, when we do the finalized audit, it might be $50,000 instead of $57,000. That's why we left the appropriation at 58. Whatever money is left in there will be rolled over towards next year. We're hoping to have some kind of long-term resolution for next year, but in the meantime, that number is a little bit of a moving target. If it's more than 58, obviously the balance will go to the city. If it's less than, we've got a little bit of buffer with the leftover money that SOS carries.
Follow. Do we have any idea where Mr. Longo was able to find the $58,000?
Generally speaking, what happens at the end of each fiscal year, as the school board begins, the administration begins to close out its books for the 10 or 11 fiscal year, they balance out, match up all their POs, go through each of their lines and sweep all of their existing accounts. And by law, they must return all that money back to the city. Chances are that I don't know the exact account where that came from. I think it was salary, because it was back in the middle of August that we had worked together to identify that. I believe it was in their salary line item. And that might come from the vacancy that maybe somebody only worked half a year or should have worked a full year, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Ron.
Further discussion. Mr. Skozavala.
Sitting on the school board for many years, the finance person there of the school board who said he wasn't very happy, Mr. Gianelli, they can spend that money. They don't have to give it back to you. You know that. They can spend it. They can't. There's no mandate says that they have to give you that $58,000. Whatever group there decides to put that $58,000 in another spending, they can. The only law is that they can't have a deficit.
And they can't roll that money, Mr. Skozavala.
They can't roll the money over, but they can take that $58,000. It could be $57,000 and give you a grant and roll it over into the yes, they can.
Not now, Mr. Skozavala.
Right.
This is after June 30th. They would have had to have covered that money by June 30th.
Oh, that I didn't know that. Because otherwise they can spend that money any way they want.
And now,
Next year, I think we're going to.
We're good, we've been through this. But Mr. Skozakovich, thank you for your comments. Mr. Sadi.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I don't know.
I support this funding to save our freshman sports. The big issue here is a concern, I think several people have already brought this up, is this council and the residents becoming a bailout system for Board of Ed cuts. And the long-term solution is the only solution, because if this appropriation goes through, it's saved, the pain isn't incurred this year, and then what's going to happen, as people have brought this up, next year and the year after. I think it becomes a dangerous scenario for the council and parents to become a funding system to save aspects of either academics or sports. It is necessary at times. My kids are not old enough to be part of that yet, but I know and I understand that when that time comes, I'd be one of those parents right out there. Because I understand that not only academics and sports, but also arts, music, create the whole person. I see the development of my own children using art and music as much as academics, particularly at an early age. Which then begs the next question, and it was somewhat answered, that this is an unaudited number. I was concerned when I first saw this issue of the surplus that how would the Board of Ed that is saying we have our card and we have to cut this paralegal and we have to cut that person come up with a surplus. These are unaudited numbers, so we might have less, we may have a little bit more in the end. But my main concern
No, I have no clue, don't worry about it.
is that we don't create a situation based on some comments by Board of Ed members in the press where this becomes a match back and forth. And they're going to cut things in the future knowing that somewhere, somehow, we're going to try to find the dollars to save it. The other point of clarification I want to just make is where exactly is this money going? It says grant save our sports, a specific line item in the budget. There was a mention of funding going potentially to a booster organization. Is that the same organization or different? I can direct it to the finance director, assistant finance director. I just want to make sure that we know exactly how this line item is being funded, and that I have a couple of follow-up questions. The 35 that's already raised, is that going to be rolled into this particular line item and all those dollars appropriated? Or are these going to be allocated to freshman sports through two different accounts, one from the city and one from Save Our Sports?
Mr. Garrett?
Just to clarify how the funding works from the city side, that account 7,000 is under the recreation budget. It'll be a separate line item just for Save Our Sports as a donation grant, like we give to any other outside organization, like the United Way, for example. So the money goes from the 10-11 budget, the money left over from the Board of Ed budget will go into the fund balance, and what we're requesting here is to appropriate from fund balance the 11-12 budget to this line item, and those funds will flow from that line item to the Save Our Sports organization.
And in Save Our Sports will then fund freshman sports through the Board of Ed or directly themselves? And that's, I think, some people
Student Board of Ed. They've already, Marion, I think the first payment was already made.
Yes, the first payment was already made to be able to walk up
And that was in the amount of,
$11,000.
And we have understanding that the dollars can't be utilized for other purposes because they haven't been encumbered, as you said, Your Honor. There's not going to be an issue of any problems with funding coming from Save Our Sports to the Board of Ed and it being used specifically or only for that purpose. If I may, Your Honor, through the chair to Assistant Director of Finance, there was, and usually don't ask members of the public to comment on things, but member of the public said something about another booster organization. Is it a separate organization or Save Our Sports? That's the same?
Oh, it's, yeah.
One and the same?
It's one and the same, correct,
Okay.
yeah. Our official, the Booster Club official name is Hatters Athletic Booster Club, but it's, Save Our Sports was our initial name.
started. That clarifies. And the only thing some people ask me with regard to the fundraising aspect of this organization is certified or registered with the state, but that answers the question because not under Save Our Sports, but under the Booster Club. It's registered under that name. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. And just with that, we'll support this, but I just want to caution both parents and members of this council. We need to continue to speak up when it comes to these things throughout the Board of Education budget because I don't want to see the city side become the bailout instrument for those things that end up getting cut from the Board of Ed budget. Sometimes you might have to go through a year of pain so the Board of Ed can feel that pain. Sure, they won't feel it when it comes to this, and that's a good thing, at least temporarily. Thank you.
I think they'll feel it soon.
Another question.
Mrs. Stanley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to thank the parents who took the initiative. I'd like to thank the parents who took the initiative to raise the money, and also to the residents and the businesses who donated to help this a success. And they did it in such a short amount of time. I was so worried about it. I was like, how are they ever going to do this? But you did raise a lot of money in a short amount of time, and it showed everyone here and everyone in Danbury how important it is to you and how important sports are in general. I just want to thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Ms. Stanley. Further discussion, Mr. Rotello.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been following this fairly closely, and I thank you to Councilman Sadi for bringing this particular point out, because there was some confusion as to how the money was going to be distributed to actual kids who would be playing sports in the fall. Knowing that if we gave it directly to the Board of Education, they could essentially do whatever they wanted. So if you could just illuminate that briefly, we're going to give it to the Booster Club, and the funds will be spent through the Board of Education as if they had in the first place, salaries, insurance, liability, all that kind of stuff, but it will somehow be restricted. What's the instrument that restricts it and allows the program to continue as if it was being funded directly to the city? That's the little piece that I don't quite understand.
Two things. One is Mr. Longo has created a line item similar to the line item we have here from our Parks and Recreation line item for donations specifically for freshman sports. They have a similar process that we have in the sense you can't take money out of one area that's already been encumbered, and this money's already encumbered to pay for referees, to pay for coaches, to pay for equipment, insurance, and all that other stuff. You can't just switch it over somewhere else. The second piece of that is that the board was clear to the charge of these folks here that if you want to raise this money, we'll fund freshman sports. You give us the money, we'll fund it. For them now to take money and give it to these folks, they've done their job. They've come in with the full amount of money that they've requested to raise and then some. And to spend it somewhere else, I don't even think it's legal. I think you're going to have all kinds of problems. We'll have big time problems with the audit, but I think we're going to have all kinds of problems in terms of the efficacy of the board and keeping their word to what they said they would do. So there's no chance that they're going to take this money and spend it on something else, as long as it works for the Booster Club. My concern is giving this money directly to the board and sort of saying, we'd like you to spend this on freshman sports. We've had that battle here before with textbooks and other items, as we all know, and it didn't happen. So I thought it was the cleanest way to be able to get this program up.
Oh, thanks. And if I can, follow up. Normally, the taxpayers give the money to the Board of Education, to the council. Since we're going to the Booster Club, I do have a question about liability. Are they going to be removed if something happens on the field, or will they be, since the money goes through them, will they somehow have extra liability that they might not normally have?
They have they have an arm's length. This is simply a fundraising tool to add a program. The Board of Ed's liability insurance will cover any, just like any other sport.
They're not going to be on the hook.
They're not on the hook.
Thank you.
Any other discussions about this? Mr. Burns?
Thank you, Your Honor. I support freshman sports. I also agree with many of the comments that the speaker made concerning participation for kids early on, not just from the physical aspect of it in terms of addressing some of our needs, diabetes, obesity, but from the long-term aspects, which may include perseverance, discipline, teamwork. Research suggests also that that holds true across different minority groups. The question I had though was, I looked around a little bit and I came up with about, at least from the information I read, about 13 total interclassic sports. They mentioned basketball, football, soccer, field hockey, track and field. Is there any way to find out whether or not that's the true number for the pool of freshman sports? If anyone knows?
We don't have anybody from the Board of Ed. I don't know, Lorraine, you have
You were told 14. I know there's a couple of sports that they play like for free. I believe it's track. I think it's for free. And cross country. I think over 2 for free. So
I think it's probably
we're told
approximately.
14.
My ultimate question is, this pool of sports that we have currently won't be expanded to include other teams?
No, it covers everything. No, it covers what it was covering. Right. Yeah. And I was told it was 14.
Any other discussion related to Mr. Sadi, Secretary?
Just one technical item, there's no certification with this through the chair to the Assistant Director of Finance to certify the availability of the funds currently in our fund balance and what our fund balance would be after this allocation.
Mr. Garrett, do you verbally certify that this money is available?
Those funds are available from fund balance. At this time, it's slightly over $20 million.
He's spending that money. That's our AAA bond. Further, Mr. Collins.
Thank you. I would just like to offer my congratulations and echo the sentiments of my colleagues here tonight to Sandra and Andrea and Lorraine and Cindy and the group for stepping up, tremendous job. You guys worked very hard and I'm glad to hopefully see this come on for this year. We'll have next year. Thank you.
Any other discussions related to this? Well, this, I think we're ready to vote, Mr. Culver. So, seeing no other discussion, I'll try your minds on the question. All those in favor of making this grant to Save Our Sports Booster Club, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.